Well, good morning everybody. It's the 14th of May. It's 5 days since our last update. Things have been moving on quite quickly in the hop yards here in Suckley. The weather has been quite cool, so the growth is not as fast as normally would be expected, but there has been quite a bit of movement. If you look down at the plants here, you can see the difference that the training has made to the growth of the habit of the plants. You can see that there are just those one or two bines growing up each string now. That's the position we're looking for, and all the growth that's been pushed down to the side is now still on the floor. Had the training not happened, those bines would still all be trying to climb up the strings as well, which would be a bit of a disaster for the grower, because if you get too many of those shoots growing up into the onto those strings, then the plant gets crowded out by too many leaves, and if there's too many leaves, not enough light gets in and the cones don't develop. The plant's natural reaction to overcrowding is not to develop too much cone. So it's very important just to get one or two of the shoots to grow up there and not overcrowd the plant. You can see there's quite a lot of growth in the bottom there, debris in the bottom, and the grower will come through and clean that out a little bit later on. Just as an aside, you can see, I don't know whether you can see in the distance, it's quite a long way away on the camera here, but over in the distance one of the Bramley apple yards has been pulled out, and they're already working there this morning trying to drain that field before they replant it. We're going to have our hop walk later on in the season, and the marquee is going to go up in that field over there. So that's just a little bit of an update in the Pilgrim here. And also looking at the target this morning, you can see that they're a little bit behind where the Pilgrim are, but same sort of thing really. There's just those one or two shoots that are growing up the strings. A really good result on there. We don't want too much wind at this stage. You can just see the odd one or two which are starting to come off the wires, off the strings, and the target is particularly renowned for this. It doesn't attach itself too well. If we have high winds, some of these shoots will start to flap about and can start to do what they're doing on the floor here, sort of go all over the place really, which is not what the farmer wants. But the target looking very well. Not seeing any really serious signs of pest or disease at the moment. There is a little bit of downy mildew around in the parish, I'm told, by some of the growers, but so far everything looks nice and clean. Just a little bit behind them where we normally are. They have caught up a little bit. As I say, it's quite chilly. It's only 4 degrees centigrade here this morning. So there are still a lot of growth to go, and we could really do with some nice warm weather now just to force these on a bit. Well, even though it's still a bit chilly here in the mornings and the cold days still around, you can see that some of the early blossoming trees are starting to come out. This is a beautiful sight. I think this is hawthorn. I'm not entirely sure. If anybody knows, please text or email me with that. But absolutely stunning to see these coming out. So if we compare that to some of the apple trees, these cider apples here, these are still only just starting to come into bud, slightly into bud there, and not showing any signs at the moment. It's almost been a frost overnight here, so it's not encouraging them at all. But hopefully within a few weeks, couple of weeks, these will be in full bloom and we can get some really nice pictures of the apple trees in blossom. Well, also this morning you can see a bit of work's been going on. They've inserted poles into all the broken hedgerow poles. It's quite a big job getting that old pole out and the bottom of the pole out of the ground and putting this new one in. But you can see they've got that ready to go, and sometime in the next couple of days they'll be attaching this wire work back over and getting the plants up and growing again. Just to look at the Sovereign, you can see that these plants are doing very well. They don't look quite as healthy because of all the old bine in there from last year, but you can see they're growing well. They don't have to be trained, these will train themselves, so saving on extra stringing costs and also on the labour work for the labour costs for actually tying the hops onto those strings. So there's a couple of savings there, but of course because the plants are much shorter, they don't yield as high as the tall hops, and so this has to be taken into account when we're pricing the hops. I think the When the hops initially came out in 1997, people were sort of saying that the hops had to be a little bit cheaper because they were easier to produce, less expenses going in. But what they didn't take into account was that the yields were much lower. So these are, or should be, a little bit more expensive than the tall hops. But at the moment, that's not the case, and it is discouraging some of the growers. So we're going to have to try and work on that one to get the pricing right with these hedgerow varieties. Dexter's having fun this morning. You can see him over there. He loves to chase the rabbits through, and we've seen 1-2 hares in here. I don't know what he'd do if he caught one, but he always likes to have a good sniff out and see if he can find anything running around in these hops. Just to update you on a bit of more work that's been going on. You can see here in the Goldings aren't quite as well developed, and they're not producing quite as many laterals as the Target and the Pilgrim, but they are looking healthy, nice and strong. But just here in the bottom of the hop yard, last year this was very, very wet, and a lot of water lay down here, and so there were some big ruts where the tractors had to go through. And just this time, this week, just a couple of days ago here, they've gone through with a Rotavator Rotera and just scuffled this up so that the tractors can get through. You can see they've only gone a slight way up the row. No need to do the whole yard, but that just smooths the ground out, ready for any treatments or tractor movements they have to do later on in the year. So quite a bit going on at the moment in the hop yards.